Hi, and welcome to the Changing Perspectives podcast, the show where we discuss a variety of topics, including grief, parenting, relationships, mental health, and pop culture. Join us and explore a number of changing perspectives. We're your hosts, Jenni and Josh Brennan. Well, hi, Jenni.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent. We're here. It's episode 92. Welcome, everybody. We're coming at you with another parenting episode. It's time to dust off the parenting hats. And we've got a great episode prepared for you, but we are also recording this live on Facebook. So hello, everyone in Facebook world.
I don't remember the last time we did a parenting one.
Me either, actually.
Okay.
It sure was pandemic, COVID related, something or other. I don't know.
As is everything. Okay.
Yeah, but this is going to be great. This is entitled "Teenagers Know Everything."
Well, they do.
And I don't know where somewhere on the Changing Perspectives social media empire that you're building, I don't know, I was inspired by, I think it was something, a meme you shared or something about teenagers knowing everything or thinking they know everything. So we decided to do an episode all about that. But first, this is a reminder, your friendly weekly reminder to sign up for Jenni's newsletter. Head over to changingperspectivesonline.com. I will drop a link in the live feed because we are back live, like I said before. Hey, if you missed this live show, be on the lookout for other live shows. We'll try to give you as much heads up as we can, but sometimes we can't. We just flip it on and say, hey, let's go live. Be on the lookout for that. You could see some extra content. We'll hang out after the show is done recording, and a little bit of extra content just for the live folks. So be on the lookout for that. Check out changingperspectivesonline.com to sign up for that newsletter and to check out the shop. We have lots of great merchandise available for you all. In addition to Jenni's newsletter, you have to check out the TikTok.
This is the boring part of the podcast.
No, this is the great part. This is the part this is the housekeeping part. The stuff we do at the beginning so we can get to the fun stuff.
Okay.
But you have to push people towards your TikTok. Here's why. Because it would be great if we could also go live on TikTok.
Whoa, 2 lives at the same time?
2 lives at the same time.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy, but we could do it. But in order to go live on TikTok, you have to get more followers, correct?
That is a true story.
Yes. So go follow Jenni on TikTok. The Changing Perspectives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it is?
That is true.
No, what did Jacob say last week? No underscores, cat. I don't know what he said. Know. He said all that Gen Z
he's
speak.
Our associate producer. Yeah. I'm the Changing Perspectives on TikTok.
Yes.
Changing Perspectives podcast on Facebook. Changing Perspectives blog on Instagram.
Nice. Thank you for running through all that, Jenni. Now you're sharing the boring stuff.
Okay. What are we doing?
We're talking about the remodeling of the teenage brain. Did you know brains get remodeled?
I talk about it all the time with
Dude,
my patients.
Okay, listen to me. I'm so super excited about this episode because I'm a science nut. And I like talking about parenting, so I'm super pumped about this. I've prepared a bunch of stuff. I have some articles to share, some fun stuff. But we're going to talk about why teenagers think they know everything. It's okay. Like, it's not their
normal,
fault.
Right.
Yeah.
They're supposed to. It's
totally
so much
normal.
of what bugs us as parents or people, like just people out there who are ever around teenagers, is because teenagers are doing what they're supposed to be doing developmentally. Yes. Like, they're supposed to be awkward and messy and not know how to exist in this world between being an adult and being a kid. And the hope, and for the vast majority of teenagers, is that they make it into adulthood unscarred from their teenage years, and then their brains continue developing into early adulthood. So our brains aren't actually fully developed until much later than teenagers actually think.
Yes, that's true. So parenting teens is challenging, to say the least, and we are right in the middle of it with a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, as most of you know. The 12-year-old is an old soul. He's technically a tween, but he's a teenager.
Well, he's tween 30 and 40.
Yes, exactly. Real quick, a nice plug for all the great parenting articles Jenni already has on her website related to raising teens. A couple of those, 540 Days, which is your article about middle school, which I think is excellent. Everett says hello.
Our teenage dog is crying about.
That's not your seat, buddy. That's
Okay.
Norma Jean's seat. Somehow I'm raising a kid that doesn't care what people think, and I want to be like him. I love that article that you wrote. So check that out. And the other, a very recent one, which is called "I Wasn't Needed Anymore," which is an article about our oldest Jackson becoming more independent as he goes into high school.
Was that the microblog that I wrote
Yes.
with the football pads?
Yep. Those are all available to you on Jenny's Facebook page on changingperspectivesonline.com.
I think I'm behind on putting them on my blog, but
Oh, okay.
I'll get there.
Well, no, I have the link here.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool. Okay.
they're there. Boom. Enjoy them.
Okay.
I wanted to start off with a little comic meme that I found, which is very funny, and I think it's funny. And I'll share this in the live feed, and also give credit where credit is due here. This is from a Pinterest account. Pinterest account's entitled "Parenting High Schoolers." The comics. It's a traditional sort of newspaper comic. It says there's a mom at a library desk, and she says, "I can't find any books on raising teenagers. I've looked in medical lifestyle and self-help." The librarian goes, "Did you try the horror section?"
That's true.
And I will drop that into the live feed. But that, it's scary raising teens, right, Jenny?
It is. I just submitted a new piece. I don't know if it's going to get picked up, so it hasn't seen the light of day. But it was kind of about that I used to look at this phase as like the scary thing, right? Like I was terrified of rolling into the teenage years, but I actually find it less horrific than other stages like newborn and three-year-old, teenagers.
Less horrific.
Less horrific.
I like that.
I don't know. I feel like maybe I relate more to teenage. I don't know what it is about this stage, but
I think it
I'm
depends on
actually
the
really
day,
enjoying
maybe.
this stage. The tween is hard, right? That like in between being a kid and becoming a teenager, right? So
Right.
that like late elementary school, early middle school, boy, those years are rough. But I feel
Those
like
are
we're
rough.
just beyond that now with our youngest and well beyond that with our oldest. So
Yeah,
lots of different
no,
horrors though, like driving.
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on what stage of teenagerhood, right? Depends on that drives the horror. I can't figure out how to drop this picture into the feed, so I'll just drop it on Dizzy Bird Studios in a few minutes. On my Facebook page, facebook.com/Dizzy Bird Studios, to check out that comic I was just referencing. So let's
I feel
talk
like I
about.
have to apologize to the people watching
Why?
because it is 8:00 and I've got no makeup left. This is very talk about horror.
Talk about horror. You're beautiful, Jenny. Yeah.
Maybe with makeup and better lighting.
All right, I was able to successfully just post that comic on Dizzy Bird Studios Facebook page, so if you're interested, go check that out. Thank you for bearing with me there. So, Jenny, let's talk about the teenage brain. The brain does a lot of growing and changing.
Wait.
What?
Facebook is automatically putting captions on this.
Well, that's just fantastic. Are you sure it's Facebook and not StreamYard?
I don't know. It could be StreamYard.
That's great.
Sorry.
That's okay. Hey, if you're watching, looks like we have a fair amount of people watching, which is excellent. If you're watching, if you'd like to submit a question and join in the conversation, please feel free. We'll feature your comment or question on the air. It'll be recorded in podcast history forever.
Dude, we had like 90 people watching and now there's 10
I
because of all
know.
the boring housekeeping stuff.
That's not true. No way. You just had to hold on. We're talking about brains.
Okay, stop dropping stuff in the links. Let's just get into the
I
content.
didn't drop
here.
anything in the link
You
yet.
tried.
I tried.
Okay.
The brain does a lot of growing and changing in adolescence, and it's connected to puberty. So if your child was early to puberty, there's a good chance they're early to brain changes too. Did you know that part?
I did not.
Yeah. So these brain changes are called
I don't know. What?
remodeling.
Oh, right. You said that. You said
Hello.
that. Sorry.
I did.
It's late.
That was a
It's
softball.
like we have determined in my house that my brain turns into a pumpkin.
You have a
At the
pumpkin
end
brain.
of the day,
That's
I
what
have a
Jacob
pumpkin
says.
brain, so it stops working.
Yep. Maybe I think a pumpkin brain is maybe better than a teenage brain. Maybe it works the same way.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
So the remodeling is done through a process called pruning. It sounds a little weird because it's like pruning a bush or
Well, but that
landscaping.
makes sense.
but
It's the same
it
thing,
is.
right? When
Yeah.
you're pruning a bush or you're gardening or whatever, you're cutting off. You're cutting off the stuff that doesn't sort of serve the main plant anymore, right? So
Exactly.
I assume that's what's happening in the brain.
That's
too,
exactly what's
That
happening.
you're getting rid of stuff that the brain decides is not that important.
Right.
Which Jilly actually one of our listeners suggested, did you see this the other day? She suggested that we talk about Inside Out.
Yes. I love that movie.
I think I've only seen it once, but I feel like in that the brain does do some pruning. I feel like at the end of the night, they dump things that are not core memories and are not important.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
They sort of go through this a similar process, so it's just interesting. After this episode, we should definitely look at that movie again and
from a brain perspective. But also, we as adults do that, which is why one of the reasons why sleep is so important, because that's when that brain stuff kind of happens for us, when our brains sort of prune, or kind of, I like to think of it as like file things away appropriately, or shred documents. That's when that happens. And if we don't do that, stuff kind of gets stuck. Right. Stuff also gets stuck when we have trauma.
Right.
I'm just going to go off on a whole
That's
lot
okay.
of
Hey, that's the job. Okay. That's your job. So much brain growth happens in the earlier. So many neurons are firing and synapses and all that. So that's like your younger years. Like there's so much, like when we talk about the brain of a child being like a sponge, sort of taking everything in. But there's a use it or lose it principle that drives the remodeling, kind of like what you were just saying. Circuits and connections are being used remain. So like the stuff that you're using, that's what hangs out in your brain. That's the remodeling piece. What are you doing?
I'm showing the standoff that's happening over there on the chair.
I'm going to leave this in the recording.
I know, yeah. This is our life.
Are you good now?
Yeah.
So those connections, hey, you, So those connections and circuits that aren't being used basically shut down, and the ones that remain get even stronger and fire more quickly. There's better coordination, and this process is called myelination. Now you know that. That's information now that you know.
Now you know.
Myelination.
I remember that.
So there's
a myelin sheath, right?
Yes. Covers the brain. This is what makes an adolescent better at a skill like playing an instrument or a sport. The more you practice a skill during this time of development, the better you get at it because of myelination.
Right. That's why it's harder. So I was literally just talking about this with a patient tonight about sort of I always think of them in terms of pathways. I'm a visual person, so I always think of them as, in our childhood and early adolescence, pathways get developed, sort of like worn down paths that are easier to sort of walk down. We can form new pathways as adults, but it's harder. Like we got to get in there with like machetes and really kind of work hard and go over those paths again and again and again and again and again. You can do it, but I have someone coming to remove this dog.
Oh, okay.
If one of our teenagers responds to my text. But it's much easier to sort of lay those new pathways when you are a child or an adolescent than it is as an adult.
Pruning is the reshaping of the parts of the brain not being used. That's what we're establishing. And I have a Psychology Today article to share with everybody that talks about how it's during this period of adolescence where many psychiatric diagnoses have their major onset. During the pruning phase. Were you aware of that at all? Did you?
No.
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't see adolescents or children anymore. So, I mean, that makes sense.
So pruning begins at the...
But also, this is what... Okay. Who wrote that article? When was it written? What's the data?
Right.
Do psychiatric diagnoses happen at that time because of the pruning, or because that is when it starts to become a problem for the adults around them?
A medical doctor in 2014.
Okay, that's still a little bit old. 7 years old. Well, I wasn't really asking you to answer that, but thank you for answering that.
The title of the article is Pruning, Myelination, and the Remodeling of the Adolescent Brain.
So I guess my point is we can't always say that's causal, right? Like the fact that that's happening may not cause why there's psychiatric diagnoses at that point in time. It could be a lot of other stuff that's happening too. Just wanted to clarify that. And I do think we tend to overdiagnose in general.
Sure.
Because the only way to get insurance to pay for a session for an adult or a child or an adolescent is for there to be a diagnosis.
Right. That's a good point.
So, okay.
All right. This is the job of you during this.
It's to derail
I provide,
you.
No.
Down other paths.
I provide content, and you respond.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's the way we work, if anyone's new.
So pruning begins at the cerebellum, which is at the back of the brain, and moves towards the front, with the front or prefrontal cortex going last.
Which is the way our brains work, right? Like
Yes.
that's the more developed, advanced part of our brain. The sort of further down we get in our brain, closer to the brainstem, the more sort of primitive our brain function is.
Right.
And when we're in a perceived trauma situation, that's the part of the brain that works. All that other stuff, all that sort of front of your brain stuff, more advanced stuff, shuts off. And all that's left is the survival part.
Right.
Which is pretty similar to how an adolescent functions.
Exactly. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're peeling back the layers of the brain, so to speak, which is just super exciting for me. So what does the prefrontal cortex do? Jenni already sort of mentioned it, but it's responsible for lots of different complicated behaviors like setting goals, paying attention, planning for the future.
That's a big one.
Concrete rule learning, controlling impulses, and managing emotions and reactions.
Right. So you can very clearly, if you've ever been a teenager or been around a teenager or parented a teenager or taught a teenager, you can see that all of that stuff is the stuff that is the hardest part of being with or being a teenager, right? It's that stuff, because literally they're brain damaged. They're
Yes.
it drives our kids crazy when I say that. Like when they're like, why can't I do this? I'm like, because you're brain damaged. You're not really damaged. Your brain's just
Brain's not ready.
It's not ready. It's just not developed yet, because you literally don't have the capacity to see the future, how your decision right now can impact you in the future. Super hard.
These functions of the prefrontal cortex are called executive functions. They're also referred to as executive functions. And I have an article from Empowering Parenting or empoweringparents.com that gives examples of some of these functions of the prefrontal cortex for a developed one and an undeveloped one. So I'm gonna read right from this article. And of course, we'll share this in the show notes. So for planning ahead, a developed prefrontal cortex, this is what you would say: I have a lot going on this week. I better not schedule anything else. An undeveloped version, your teenage son asks if he can go to 2 concerts this week. He has 2 tests on Friday and a term paper due and a big history project. Obviously, he's not planning ahead. I feel like this is, this article writer was like in our house last week. Managing emotions and delaying responses. So a developed brain would say something like, you're driving and someone cuts in the lane before you. You feel like ramming into their car, but you control yourself. The undeveloped version is you're making dinner and your teenage daughter walks past. She had a tough day at school. You ask her if she wants a salad. She yells back, "Whatever, Mom," and slams the door. She's not managing her emotions or delaying her response. Let me give you another example. How about empathy? You're having lunch with a friend. This is the developed brain. You're having lunch with a friend. You can tell she's exhausted and discouraged before she even opens her mouth. Undeveloped. You've had a long day. You walk in the door and tell your son that you are exhausted and need help with dinner. Because he is 14, he does not accurately read or understand the emotions of others. So he says, "Mom, I always help you. Why are you so mad?" When you are not mad at all, you just want help making
It sounds
dinner.
like that happened in our kitchen today while I was in a session and you were
Yes.
asking boys for help.
Oh man, I think it was. It's like read the room. Can't you read the room? No, they can't. Right?
They can't. But also, adults can't either sometimes.
That's true.
Right. So sometimes when we're super stressed, we're anxious, we're overtired, we're experiencing some trauma, our brains don't function optimally either. And so that executive functioning stuff, all that stuff you talked about, the impulse control, is really hard for adults to tap into as well. So I'm sure as you were reading those sort of like undeveloped brain examples, some of you out there listening or watching may have seen yourself in some of that.
Exactly. Did you have another thought?
I was just going to say, it looks like my video feed is really jumpy and slow. I think it's my iPad.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know. So I apologize to people watching. It seems like yours is good, but mine is not.
Okay. You're the pixelated version.
I'm just like the slow, choppy version, which is kind of how I feel. So
Slow and choppy.
Pretty apropos. Mm-hmm.
So while the pruning and remodeling is going on near the cerebellum, the prefrontal cortex is nowhere near ready for prime time, right? And so it's still being prepared, but it's not ready. So what part of the brain is the teenager using, and what parts? They're using what Jenny already actually referenced. They're using the amygdala. And the amygdala is associated with that impulse and instinct like fight or flight, sending signals to the hypothalamus. So one of the primary roles is to process fear of the hypothalamus. So it's reflexive and not proactive. And some studies actually suggest, and I will share the article to this, that the amygdala plays a role in anxiety. So people with disorders or prone to anxiety disorders may have an overactive amygdala. Are you familiar with any of that stuff?
Yeah, I love brain stuff.
I know, it's exciting.
I talk about it a lot because I think it normalizes a lot of things for people. When I can break it down for folks and explain like what's actually happening in the brain and why it's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, our brains are pretty amazing.
They're amazing. And I knew a little bit about this. I know you would share this with me before, and we talked about how brain development doesn't fully kind of realize until early 20s or whatnot. But doing the research to prepare for the episode, I learned so much. It's very interesting. So let's review sort of what we've talked about so far. Then we're going to talk about how parents can help.
I feel like you should have had pictures.
I know.
Like a diagram.
I know, but this is a podcast.
Oh, right.
This is audio.
Okay.
We are streaming live, or I'm trying to anyway. Jenny's a little jumpy, but so we talked about how the brain is remodeling, pruning, not using parts of the brain that or won't be used. That that basically it says this stuff is not being used. We don't need that. We don't need that connection. And the last part of the brain to do that work is the prefrontal cortex. That's at the front of the brain where you do things like pay attention, control impulses, and manage emotions and reactions. So literally the teenagers...
And plan for the future.
So literally the teenager's brain is not ready to do these things in a fully developed way. And so instead they're using things like the hypothalamus, using the fight or flight reactive parts of the brain more often than the higher functioning part.
Which is so interesting to me because of the way our society is set up, right? Like our society is set up that teenagers graduate high school around 17, 18, and then are supposed to make a decision that will impact the rest of their lives when literally their brain is not developed enough to be able to make that decision, right? Because our brains aren't really fully developed until 21, 22, sometimes 23. And yet at 17, well, really 16, right? Because you have to sort of apply to think about colleges as a junior. You have to decide what you want to do with the rest of your life at that age when you're not actually capable of making that decision. It's just crazy.
That's crazy.
And I think that's why there's so many people, especially our generation, because I feel like now there's permission. People that made a decision in high school about what they wanted to be when they grow up are not doing that, right? Because you're not, I'm not. We realized, what 17-year-olds us thought we wanted wasn't actually what we really wanted.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it takes a while. But so let's talk about how parents can help. So we want to talk about building that healthy teenage brain. And I have an article from raisingchildren.net. It's actually an Australian parenting website, which is kind of cool. We do have some listeners in Australia.
We do.
Shouting those guys out. And so how can a parent help their teenager while they're trying to remodel the brain at this stage? So they list a bunch of different tips. And first they say, let your child take some healthy risks. What do you think about that, Jenny? Is that something that helps that development?
Yeah. I think I just shared another a meme that I wrote that parenting is kind of this, parenting teenagers is all about sort of this space between like giving them enough space to take a risk and being close enough to sort of be there when they fall. because you want them to take risks. That's how they learn, right? That's how they sort of start to learn parameters, but you don't want them to really get hurt emotionally or physically.
Right.
But if you coddle them, if you don't allow them to take risks, then they're never going to learn that, right? They're never going to sort of lay down new pathways or develop new areas to prune because they've never had to sort of be uncomfortable.
Right. No, that makes sense. The article says new and different experiences help your child develop an independent identity, explore grown-up behavior, and move towards independence. Next, they say help your child find new creative and expressive outlets for their feelings. What do you think that? What would be like an example of that?
Well, you just talked about how their brain is not yet developed enough to manage impulses, and so they're sort of really reactive with their emotions. So giving them something to do, right? So when they're angry, what else can they do other than going in their room and slamming the door? Can they punch a pillow? Can they journal? Can they rip some paper? Can they go outside and throw a ball against the wall? They're not going to want to do any of those things. They're going to want to just, but reminding them that those are their options is good. Sort of giving them sort of this sort of buffet of options for them to choose from can be helpful.
So they have trouble expressing their feelings because that's what the prefrontal cortex in a fully developed version does.
Oh, right.
Right. So they obviously have trouble. So you need to help them find that path.
Like I said, I'm a therapist that doesn't see adolescents, but when you're a therapist that sees adolescents, you don't sit on a couch or a chair across from each other and talk about your feelings. Because a lot of teenagers can't do that. So there's a lot of like playing games and being active with your hands and maybe being outside on a farm or on a basketball court, shooting baskets or something while you're sort of starting to explore feelings.
Interesting. It's all connecting, Jenny.
That's why I don't do adolescent work.
Next,
I like to sit and talk about feelings.
Yes, you do.
Adolescents don't.
You're very prefrontal cortex. Wow, that sounds like some sort of new corn chip. Try these new cortex chips. Okay. You rather talk to folks with fully developed prefrontal cortex.
Indeed.
For your therapy sessions. Talk through decisions, they say next. Step by step with your child. Ask about possible courses of action your child might choose and talk through potential consequences. I feel like that would be very challenging. That would be just like pulling teeth to have that conversation, I feel like.
I don't know. I feel like we do that sometimes.
I think we do, but I feel like it's a hard process.
Yeah. It's a hard process because their brain doesn't get it, but doesn't mean we should stop trying.
No.
Right? Like as parents, we can't just be like, well, their brains are not there yet, so we'll just,
It is what it is.
See them in 8 years.
Right. They say encourage your child to weigh positive consequences and rewards against negative ones. Like, this is what's going to happen if, like, what do you think? Like, getting them to actually respond with what those consequences would be.
Or in the affirmative. I don't think our oldest will mind me telling this story. If he does, I'm sorry. But I do try to maintain I don't say their name. You say their name on the podcast. I try not to. But
it only works if we both choose not to say their names, so you can say it.
He has been wanting a job really since he turned 14 and but like during the pandemic, but it's hard for someone to hire a 14-year-old, especially during a pandemic. So he really kind of picked up his job search again after he turned 15 and had like his first sort of semester of school. So as we had hit like February, he started to really kind of want a job and sort of look for jobs and apply for jobs. And he was offered an interview for this place. And the morning of the interview, so it was his first like real interview, he had to like dress up and go and meet face to face. He'd done some phone interviews. So that morning he was so mad. Right? He was so mad. He was like, I don't want to go to this interview. I don't know why I applied. I'm not going to get the job. I don't really want to do this.
He did not want to go
and
so bad.
Because it was the morning and he was nervous and he'd never done it before, right? Like adults feel that way about going on a job interview. And he's 15. And so we helped him sort of look into the future. Like what could happen if you go? right? If you go, this place that you're going has many different places that you can work. There's like a summer program, there's a school year program, there's lots of different options. Just go and see, maybe there's other opportunities. If not, at least it's a good practice for you about, going on an interview. And since you don't really want the job, then there's not a lot of pressure, right? So, but he was only seeing the immediacy, like, it's early, I don't want to go. So he went. And
very begrudgingly,
but he looked very handsome and was all dressed up and got offered a job. Not the job he was interviewing for. He got offered a job to start like the next weekend, right then and there in the interview. And I wasn't with you. You were in the car. He came back in the car and he was like smiling and super proud of himself. But he could only see the immediate sort of reality, right? The reality was Saturday morning, I just did 5 days of school, 5 days of football. I'm tired. I want to sit here and watch whatever we were watching as a family.
Yeah.
He couldn't see that decision would impact his future, right? So we as parents had to sort of help him start to explore that possibility, right? Like looking into the future. What could happen if you go? What might happen if you don't go, right? Because we also talked about if you don't go, then you're closing this sort of pool of job opportunities off because now you've kind of blown off the interview the day of. So any other jobs there, you might not get called for an interview. And so you're only leaving yourself this other pool. He literally couldn't do that on his own as a 15-year-old.
And at one point it got to be like, well, you have to go. So you have to go. Right.
So sometimes in our house, and I'm sure that our kids, when they are adults, will be in their own therapy sessions talking about how this was bad. But in our house, we do sometimes say, like, there are lines where we'll say, this is going to happen. And they say, why? And we say, because your brains aren't developed enough
and
to
they
make
hate
the decision.
that.
They really, really hate that.
They really do.
But it's true. Right?
Very true.
And I don't think they usually get mad at us after.
No.
I think usually we steer them right-ish.
Well, in this particular instance, now he has a paying job. So
yeah, and he's making good money. Yeah.
Proud of him.
Yeah.
And
he's proud of himself.
He is. Let's read a couple more of these. Use family routines. Speaking of family time, to give your child's life some structure. These may be based around school and family timetables. How does that help, Jenny? With someone that doesn't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex for family routines?
I mean, routines and structure help for everybody.
Yeah.
Prefrontal cortex or not, because they give you some structure. They give you the parameters, right? So that you can kind of go about your day. They give you predictability. They give you space in which you can kind of have lessons and learn things.
That makes sense.
Comfort. They also give you comfort.
Provide boundaries and opportunities for negotiating those boundaries. Young people need guidance and limit setting from their parents and other adults. Does that make sense to you?
It makes total sense. So I think about, it's a little different because of the pandemic, but walking around town in our town has been like this rite of passage, right? That usually you don't get to do until you're in middle school. And like when there was traditional school, middle schoolers would get out. I think they'd have a half a day the first Wednesday of every month or something. It's all different now. And you'd get to walk around town, and all the shop owners in the town, I think, really hate it. Like all the pizza places. But so that was always
money's money, right?
That was always this thing of like when you're in middle school, you get to kind of walk around town. And as a parent, it's always been really scary. And I remember friends of ours, just the way our oldest ages, his baseball team, a lot of his friends were a grade above him because it was on age and not grade. And so the grade ahead of him, when he was in 5th grade, had their first like walk around town. And I remember one of my friends like hid in her car around a corner and was like following them around town because they were giving them boundaries, right? Like you can go walk around town, but not quite like trusting them all the way. Yeah. And we do that too, right? Like we let our youngest walk around town now. Except now it's like the park because you can't really go in places, but we give him boundaries. We've got like LoJack on his phone. We track his phone, so we know where he is, and
we ask him to check in.
roll up at any point and see what they're doing. But that's boundaries, right? Like he knows the rules. He knows the parameters of where he can go, how long he can go, what he can do when he's out there. I got sidetracked.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, I think that he enjoys having that freedom.
All teenagers do.
It's my foot. It's my foot. It's all good.
Okay, you're making noise. Sorry.
Like, wow, you're easily distracted.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think explaining why we have those boundaries, at least it's helpful for our youngest because he asks me over and over, like I say, you need to check when you move to a different place, when you're walking around, you need to touch base with me, and he'll say why.
Well, but there's the amygdala, right? He'll say, usually it's why don't you trust me, or why don't you trust me?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's about the you must not trust me. If you're giving me boundaries and you're giving me parameters and I need to check in, that must mean you don't trust me, you don't love me, you don't think I'm trustworthy.
Right.
Teenage brain.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Let's do one or two more of these. Stay connected with your child. You'll probably want to keep an eye on your child's activities and friends. Being open and approachable can help you with this. Mm. Yeah, I think that's a slippery slope because you don't want to, again, like I guess what we were just talking about, you don't want them to feel like we don't trust them. Mm-hmm. But we want to make sure that they know we're here for them and we are, engaged or at least involved in their lives enough so we know what's going on.
Right.
But that's tough. Talk with your child about their developing brain. That's one of the last tips on this raisingchildren.net article. Understanding this important period of growth might help your child process their feelings or just get annoyed.
Maybe.
Hey, parents, stop telling me about my brain. It might also make taking care of the brain more interesting for your child. So talk to them about this.
That's interesting.
Yeah. What do you think, Jenny? Did they do a pretty good job?
I like that article. I don't think we've ever done that. I don't think we've actually shown them a picture of the brain. And like
now we can. Now we should.
What it all does.
Yeah.
Well, now we have a podcast episode that we can make them listen to.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to need you to listen to this. You have homework, and then there's going to be a quiz after that.
Yeah, no, that's not a good way to manage your child and their brain development.
Yeah. So that's the brain. I have one more fun sort of thing to share with everybody, but that was the content.
Okay.
What do you think, Jenny? Do we cover the remodeling of the teenage brain and why they think they know everything?
Yeah, I think that it's really important to note that it extends beyond the teenage years, so that the young adult years are also covered in that. So if you are, or your adult child, your older child is one of those folks that graduates high school at like 17 and then graduates college, if they take the college route at 21, their brain, that prefrontal cortex, still might not be 100% developed. So some of this still might be challenging for them in terms of making life decisions and understanding the impact of things. So it's important for parents to know that too, right? So when parents are like, why are you making that decision? Why did you do that? Well, because that's what teenagers are supposed to do, right? It doesn't give you carte blanche to, did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
To do whatever you want, right?
I'm playing my teenage brain card. Here you go.
It explains it. It doesn't excuse it.
Yes.
Okay. But I think it's important for parents to be aware of that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that a lot of adults have difficulty with that part of their brain functioning too. So there's this whole level of executive functioning coaches that are out there for like business people, adults who have, they're old enough for their brains to be functioning at that capacity, but never developed those skills.
Right.
So there's coaching around how to sort of fine tune your executive functioning skills.
Maybe I need that.
Well, I mean, I do think you have undiagnosed ADD,
Maybe.
But that might be a separate conversation.
Maybe. Yeah. Want to end with something fun, Jenny?
Always.
So this is a BuzzFeed article. It says 19 tweets. We're not going to read all 19.
I need to
you
write a BuzzFeed
do it.
article.
I know. We keep talking about it. 19 tweets teenagers shouldn't read, but their parents definitely should.
Interesting. Where is this going?
Yeah. Can anyone recommend a good wine that pairs well with a teenager's crappy attitude? That's from somebody named Rodney LaCroix. This is from somebody at Big Mama on Twitter. Stay tuned for my next book all about raising a teenager that will be entitled, I don't know what time it starts or where I'm going or who's going to be there, and I'm annoyed you're so concerned over minor details.
So true. So
Yes,
true. How often does that
yes.
happen? It happened this Wednesday for Walk Around Town Day. Like at 10 a.m., they're both like, I suddenly have plans.
Yeah.
Can you drive me and
We're
my
going,
friends?
yeah.
And also, could I maybe have some cash? And we were both working and like, what?
Mm-hmm.
How? Why can't you make plans the night before? And the reason is because they're teenagers and they
Yeah.
like literally
They can't plan for the future.
But we could anticipate that, right? Like this
We
is sort of
could.
our fault.
Yeah, yeah.
We could on Tuesday nights start to be like, hey, do you think, because it's going to be nice tomorrow, any of your friends might be asking you tomorrow if you could walk around town? Let's
Right.
put a plan in place just in
Hey,
case.
what do we
right? Like
think?
we
Yeah.
could have anticipated that.
That's true. That's true. Now that it's getting nicer out, we should probably do that.
Yeah.
This is from at Sweet Mamissa on Twitter. Quote, my stomach hurts is teenager for I have a test in geometry.
Or I have baseball practice at the
I don't want to go.
clinic.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Okay, this is funny. This is at Christy Lucikia. I'm sorry, I just butchered that name. How is it that my teenager feels free to scroll through my phone, check out my entire camera roll, and read every last one of my text messages, but has literal stroke if I make eye contact with her lock screen? That's happened to me before. What are you looking at? Why are you looking at my phone? How about we'll end with this one at Blue-Eyed Ice Queen. Be kind to the people you meet. You never know who's raising a teenager.
That's true. I have one that I wrote. I'm trying to find it.
Ooh.
Teen plans. I think it's this one. Yes. For someone who doesn't have a job, an income, or a driver's license, my teen sure is good at making lots of plans that involve needing money and a ride.
Yes. That's
Although
good.
now my teenager has a job and an income. So
That's true. That's very
that
true.
one now only applies to the younger one.
This is a great BuzzFeed article, so I'll share the link. But there's some explicit tweets that we can't read on the show, but you should check those out. They're funny.
That's true.
Yes. Jenny, should we, since you're so jumpy, should we do that last thing on air?
Sure.
Since we apologize for the feed. We'll figure that out. Maybe you switch to your phone or something for the next live stream.
I think I might need to.
You're so jumpy. I can see it on the feed.
You can see it too.
Yeah, I think we've lost all the viewers because of it. That's okay. All right, I do have one more fun thing for you. Ready?
Yes.
Where did it go? Where did it go?
Find it. Find it.
I will find it.
You always lose things.
I do.
Where do they go?
Ah, okay. Here we go. I just have so many windows that open up.
Okay.
You know what's funny is I'll click a link before the show starts to have it up,
Yeah.
like in the tabs.
Yeah.
But then during the show, I'll click on the link again.
See? Yeah.
Yeah.
ADD.
That's not good. All right. You're going to take a brain quiz.
Oh, no.
All right. You're going to
It's
see.
after 8 o'clock, so I have pumpkin brain right now.
You're going to see which side of the brain you use most. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Should I be... Are you
No, I
taking
got
my
it.
answers?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got it. Okay. I could answer this for you. I could probably answer most of these for you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather be graded on a math test or a picture you painted?
Oh, my God. A math test. Over and over and over again.
You just get
And I would get
anxiety
100
thinking
on-
about that?
No, I got excited. Oh, about that
The
painting
painting?
picture? Yes.
Okay.
Although behind you can see a painting that I picture. Oh, my God. Pumpkin brain.
A painting that you pictured?
Mhm.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I painted that picture behind you.
You've never pictured a painting so beautiful. What's more comfortable, holding a tennis racket with your left hand or your right hand?
Neither. I don't like tennis.
Left,
my
right,
hand.
or
My right.
ambidextrous? Ambidextrous. Okay. Right hand. Would you rather work alone or in a group?
Alone. All the time. That's why I have a job where I work alone.
Well, the options were alone, in a group, or I can work equally well in either scenario.
I prefer to work alone.
Okay. Would you rather base a decision on the facts or on your intuition?
Ooh, neither. My gut.
An equal mixture of both?
Yes.
Okay. Neither, my gut. I think gut is intuition.
It is intuition, yeah.
So what did you want me to pick?
But also...
Facts, intuition, or equal mixture of both?
But both.
Okay.
Both. I go with both.
All right.
You said it was like I only had 2 options.
No, I think there's 3 here. What's better, learning by doing or learning by reading?
Learning by doing.
Okay. There's a middle one too every time, I think.
Okay.
Would you rather read fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Nonfiction.
I always get confused with that. Nonfiction is not fake.
No, nonfiction.
Nonfiction is true.
Nonfiction is true.
Right.
Yes.
It's not fake.
Yeah. So nonfiction?
Yeah.
Wow, you're a nerd. Would you rather build a sculpture or do geometry?
I just bought a book on the history of our anatomical structures around breathing.
That's awesome.
I'm a nerd.
I like that stuff too.
Okay.
But if I was taking this, I would have chose fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I lost it. Would you rather build a sculpture or do geometry?
Geometry.
Geometry.
Could we do that right now?
Well, hold on. So you could do geometry, sculpting, or make a sculpture using geometry.
Ew, no, geometry.
Okay. Can we do geometry right now?
Yes. Our oldest did that probably 3 months ago. Was like, hey, want to help me with this fun geometry problem?
Would you rather, you made a nerd too.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather learn a new language or learn some acting skills?
Oh, a new language.
Okay. I am the opposite of you on that.
We should have both been taking this.
I know.
Okay.
I could have done it, I guess. Would you rather critique a movie or just sit back and enjoy it?
Sit back and enjoy it.
Okay.
I say it like that.
Critique it, sit back and enjoy it, or you can do both simultaneously. I would have chosen that.
I think do both simultaneously.
Sure.
Yeah, because I do enjoy our youngest is into film. And
really is.
And I almost shared the same story that you shared. I'm behind on our group chat.
Oh, yeah.
But I saw that you shared that he was like, I really like this color palette.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy like in that moment talking about that stuff. And one of my favorite courses I took in college was just a film critiquing class. Yeah. So both.
All right. Excuse me. Would you rather have an awesome adventure or an awesome bank balance? Awesome adventure, bank balance, or you could never choose?
An awesome adventure.
Okay. I think I would chosen that too. Do you think we judge each other based on intention or action?
Action.
Action.
I think we should judge based on intention, but I think we judge based on action.
I think I agree. What's more important, what you say or how you say it?
How you say it.
Okay. I actually don't know how many questions there are. What is more useful, logic or emotions?
Well, what's the middle one there?
They
Depends.
they complement each other.
No, I don't like any of that. It depends. Skip
We can't skip. You have to choose.
the middle one then.
Okay. Let's see. Which is better, music or podcasts?
Music.
Okay. Are you sure?
Since I don't listen to podcasts, yeah.
You listen to this podcast, though. Yes.
Totally.
Yes, you do. Would you rather write a story or write a sonnet? It's interesting. Story, poem, or neither?
I guess a story.
I think
but
a
not
story
a
for
made-up
you.
story.
You don't want to write a fiction? Okay. Would you rather rely on experience or experts?
Experience.
All right. Hopefully we're getting towards the end. Maybe there's 20 questions. Would you rather mumble slowly or speak so fast that no one understands you?
That's a terrible question. Who writes these? I could totally write a BuzzFeed article.
This isn't BuzzFeed.
Oh.
This is thequiz.com. I'd rather speak too fast. I'd rather mumble slowly or silence, please.
Oh, silence, please.
Okay. Let's see. Which one are you? The person who forgets people's faces or the one who forgets their name?
Their names.
Ah. Okay. Bottling up emotions is necessary, pointless, or okay sometimes? Come on, psychotherapist.
I guess okay sometimes.
All right. Would you rather play the drums or play Sudoku?
Sudoku.
Gee, I wonder which one I would choose. Would you rather have to remember a weird name or a weird hair color?
How are those the same?
I don't know. Their hair color, their name, or I could probably remember both.
Their hair color.
Yeah. I get that. Would you rather play Would you rather act in a play or be the stage manager?
Be the stage manager. You just described our high school experience.
And I was not the stage manager.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't either, but I preferred to be on the crew.
Yes. Would you rather read lying down or sitting up?
Sitting up.
Or either way is fine by me.
Sitting up.
Okay. I'm so
Weird
curious
question.
I know. What's more important to you when it comes to fashion, style or function?
Function.
Function.
Clearly.
Would you rather have a strict schedule or play it by ear?
A schedule.
Yeah, you're a schedule person. For sure. Would you rather be reliable or spontaneous?
Reliable.
All right.
So I'm guessing that I am the boring side of the brain.
Would you rather, this is the second Sean Bean meme that's been in this quiz, by the way. You know who Sean Bean is?
Is he Mr. Bean?
Oh my goodness. It's Ned Stark, Boromir from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Would you be more annoyed at dirty dishes or a messy desk? Or both?
Both.
Both. I knew that was coming. Okay. Would you rather hang out in the laboratory or on a sports field?
Like a lab, like a science lab?
Mm-hmm. No, a bathroom.
Am I on the sports field as a
And that's
spectator
lab.
watching my children?
It says out in the sports field, in the
Oh,
laboratory, or equally at home in either location.
A lab, I guess.
Okay. So I guess that means, do you want to play a sport?
Well, yeah,
maybe?
it said out on the sports field.
Would you rather be 5 minutes early or fashionably late?
Oh, my God. 10 minutes early.
Yeah, you're early. Would you rather listen to classical music or heavy metal?
Well, that depends.
I actually like both types of music as a middle one.
I do like both types of music. And you know that because we were driving back from my COVID test because I'm having surgery yesterday. And Spotify was like, hey, Jenny, here's a playlist you might like. And it was hip hop, rap, heavy metal, country music, and maybe some show tunes. Was Hamilton on there too, maybe?
Yes, Hamilton was on there.
Yes. And Spotify was spot on.
Yeah.
It was a perfect playlist.
All right, I think we're nearing the end here. There's way more questions than I thought there was in this thing. I apologize. This was a last-minute decision. Would you rather hear about an unsolved mystery, or would you rather hear about a solved mystery?
A solved mystery.
A solved mystery. Okay. Whoops.
How many questions are there? We might just have
hold on. We're almost done.
Okay.
Okay. Would you rather take care of a cat or a dog? Or both?
A dog.
Oh, no. Sorry. It says cat, dog, or turtle.
A dog.
Dog. Okay. That's weird. Would you rather learn in a cloud? No, sorry. Would you?
Yes. I would like to learn in a cloud.
Would you rather learn in a loud classroom full of people or a quiet classroom that is completely empty?
Oh, is there a middle?
Either one would be fine, it says.
I think a quiet one.
A quiet one. All right. Would you rather lead a group project or be a teammate? Or work alone? That's the option.
Work alone.
Work alone. All right. Would you rather have a fun teacher or an informative teacher?
An informative teacher?
You're so boring.
I know.
Okay, that was the last question. Are you ready?
Yeah. Boring. My side of the brain is boring.
You're a left brain dominant.
Yeah, obviously.
Congratulations. Based on the answers you've given, you've determined that you are in fact left brain dominant. This means you excel at math, science, logical thought, and being very organized.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, like, you are very creative, and we have to do this. I just wanted to do a brain thing. It'd be fun, and then, we were supposed to do this off the air, but Jenny's feed is so jumpy, we just decided to do it on the episode itself. But this definitely leads me to say that we have to do some more personality type stuff on the show, like Myers-Briggs or something like that, because I feel like
Enneagrams.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I feel like you're so you
weird.
have so
the
much
word you're
empathy.
looking for is weird.
No, you're not weird. If weird's a good thing, sure, you're weird, but you have so much empathy, and you are a feeler when it comes. Like, if anybody's familiar with Myers-Briggs, you're a big F, because that's just your profession as well. But I wonder if that has to do with the right brain at all. I don't know. I just assumed that sort of like more compassionate and empathic people are right brain.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But this one, You are at a left brain.
Yeah. And you're
For
not.
sure. No, I am not.
Yeah.
I am right
and
brain.
our oldest is left brain, although with a lot of right brain tendencies.
Yeah.
And our youngest is right brain.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
teenage brain. There it is.
All right. Okay. Well,
55 minutes.
Thank you for preparing
Yeah.
that. And we kept it under an hour.
We did keep it under an hour. Even with that long quiz that I wasn't prepared that was that long. All right, everybody. Well, that is going to do it for today. Thank you so much for listening. For today's show notes links, you can check out all those articles, Psychology Today, Empowering Parents, RaisingChildren.net, the BuzzFeed, and the quiz article as well. I will share all those in the show notes. Hey, don't forget to submit your iTunes reviews. Rate us and review us on iTunes. New iTunes reviews will be read over the air. Tell your friends about the show. Share links. The more friends that are added to us, the better it is for the show. Please follow us on Facebook at Changing Perspectives Podcast, on Instagram at Changing Perspectives Blog. Send us an email to info@changingperspectivesonline.com. You can also visit the shop at changingperspectivesonline.com. Actually, no, visit the website. And while you're there, check out the shop. Wow, we just need to be done with this episode. Pumpkin Brains. Go ahead and subscribe to the show, everybody, so you'll never miss an episode. And we will see you next time. Say bye, Jenny.
Bye, Jenny.
The Changing Perspectives podcast is produced, recorded, and edited by Dizzy Bird Studios. Copyright 2021. Please visit Dizzy Bird Studios on Facebook, facebook.com/Dizzy Bird Studios.